Okay, welcome back from lunch. We're going to continue on today with step 8 in our process, develop database procedures for monitoring behavior. How many of you have had feedback from colleagues on why aren't things happening in the building? Johnny, Susie, Mary are all exploding and nobody's doing anything about anything. Anyone get any feedback?
Sure do.
And as members of the PBIS team, how do you respond to that?
I tell them I feel like people are working hard,
Okay.
but I guess I should be talking about data.
Okay, all right, great. As a PBIS coach, I hear it a lot. Nothing's being done. This building's imploding. Why aren't things taking place and why are things not happening quicker? And I really try to refocus back onto the data that we're collecting so that we can make educated decisions for our students. One major problem that we really have to focus on in district is the disproportionality. A lot of times we think we're doing the right thing, and we think we're looking at the all for our student population, and sometimes when we break down that data and we really go fine tooth, we realize that we are segregating certain groups and certain groups are not being treated as fairly. Why do we use data to make decisions? Anybody have input?
To know what's working and what's not working.
Okay, to know what's working and not working. Anything else? Any other
To know where we
reasons?
started from.
Okay, to know where we're starting from and how we can progress forward. Okay, great. So decisions are more likely to be effective and efficient when we can identify the problem, refine the problem, and then come together to make decisions as to how to resolve or solve that problem. So if we can do that using the data that we've collected, we're going to be a lot better off. The quality of decision making, again, depends on how clear and how precise we come to the conclusion of the problem behavior. And again, we want to help place the problem in context. Why is it happening? Where is it happening? When is it happening? What time of day? What day of the week? Instead of saying, Johnny's always a problem, it's always Johnny, and not targeting the student with that. Let's see what systems can we put in place to help the behavior to be resolved. Single most factor to getting high sustainability.
Just to show that it's working.
To show that it's working.
If it's
Yeah.
not, like to get teacher buy-in.
Teacher
If it
buy-in,
works, then
good.
teachers are gonna buy in.
Anything else? No? A lot of times, as a coach, buy-in is tough. They come back to me and they say, nothing's happening. Again, nothing is changing. I'm not gonna do any more ODRs because I don't see them being taken seriously and change isn't being made. And my answer always back to them is, I'm gonna show you data. I'm gonna produce. So every PBIS meeting, we try to make a point of bringing some sort of data, whatever the problem of the week might have been. We bring some graphs and we show, this is the data that we've collected, and let's come together as a team and make some decisions as to how that's gonna change. Seen some great progress this year in changing some mentality and getting some more buy-in by providing them with that data. So again, that's super important. Another way that or any other ways that you use data, let me ask that first. To get some of this buy-in, some sustainability with staff.
Helping staff to understand where problems are occurring. So are most problems in the classroom? Are most problems on the playground?
Okay, great. Yeah.
And how they may need to change the interventions like in tier 1. If it's a huge percentage of students who aren't succeeding, then maybe we need to review our core instruction.
Excellent, great.
And I like data that has action to it, so that way, as an administrator, I can say, hey, this is the ODR I received, here's how we took it. And so that way they know there's a response.
Great. And a lot of times with the data too, pointing them back to, I happen to use Swiss in our district, pointing them back to look at your Swiss referral and see what action was taken before we judge too quickly, because maybe there's a situation or a circumstance that that decision was made for. Another way we use data is we present it in our weekly newsletter, just to keep it fresh, and each week we pick one piece of our data and we put it out with the weekly newsletter so that they can see a different piece of the school every week and how it's being used. Before we get too into the data, we have to come up with the questions. Why are we looking at it and what are we looking for? What do we want to know when we have that data? So the scope of the problem. That's the most important thing. Is it the whole school? Is it all students? Is it a major problem and we're getting many referrals? Is it just a small group? Or is it just an individual student? Again, looking at that whole school, if it was a major problem and it was many students, we want to look at our implementation. Did we teach the expectations well? Do we need to go back and reteach? Maybe we need to do a whole school reteach, review the expectations. In a small group, or even in the whole group, the classroom matrices are up. Review those expectations frequently. And if it's that one student, hopefully they had that foundation in tier 1, but obviously they need that little bit more, and we'd have to look at some other interventions for that student. Again, many types of problems that we can look at: academic, behavioral, attendance. Break the behaviors down. We can't just say, again, Johnny's always misbehaving. We need to know, where is this happening? What time of day is it happening? Is there something that's causing this to stir or his behavior to escalate? Again, Appendix K is a great resource for you, so feel free to take a look at that if you need a few more resources. What indicators? We have to identify the indicators or the measure for the behavior. What can we collect? Again, the ODR should be pretty well informed. We should be able to tell where the behavior is happening, when it's happening, and hopefully as a team come together and decide, why is it happening? Do any of you have strategies that you use with your PBIS teams when you bring this type of data forward?
Trying to think about what measures are easiest to collect, so that
Okay.
it doesn't impede the classroom teachers.
Because you don't
Something
want to
we can
hear,
do.
this
Something
is
we can
one
do.
more thing I have to do. Yes. Anyone else have strategies to alleviate some of that?
We have our BCBA aggregate the data ahead of the team meeting, and
Nice.
then she brings it to the team and has already looked through it, and so she kind of presents that section to the
Nice.
team.
So it takes that one more step off of the team as well, and they can discuss her findings.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
We also make sure that we're talking about the data. We have a routine where we have to look at the data within the first 10 minutes of our meeting, so we're always anchoring ourselves.
So the
back.
routine is set.
Yeah.
At the first 10 minutes, we're going to look at data and analyze.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so first thing is fidelity. Did we implement the systems and strategies that we agreed upon? A lot of times as a coach, I have teachers that come back to me and they'll say, I've done everything you've asked and it's just not working. And then when we review, how did you teach the expectations? Did you review the expectations at the start of every small group, whole group? Did we quickly touch base on the expectations? A lot of times it comes back no. So it wasn't implemented with fidelity, therefore the outcome wasn't what they desired. So again, biggest part of my job is to teach and reteach, offer to go in and help them out. So feel free, if there's a colleague in your building that's having a real hard time, to go back in and say, can I help you? Can we reteach these expectations together and lay the groundwork? Without fidelity, you're not going to get the outcomes that you desire. The sources of data are many. The climate surveys are great. We can always look at office discipline referrals, attendance, academics, the fidelity tools that we have access to, grades. A lot of times we find that students who are struggling, whether it's academic or behaviorally, do what? What do you see? With students that are
Their
struggling,
behaviors also increase.
behaviors
Their
increase,
frustration.
frustrations, yep.
They're not passing classes.
They're not passing classes.
They
Avoiding.
avoid class.
They avoid, yes. That's a big one that I have teachers come to me with, that they're avoiding the work. They're avoiding the task at hand because it's difficult for them. And when we really narrow it down and we focus in on why the behavior is happening, it's usually because Johnny, Susie, or Mary is struggling in math or struggling in science, and we have to work through that. So just another strategy, take a look at the whys and when it's happening and see if we can help the teachers to put strategies in place. Again, Swiss is wonderful for that, and we can always go back and reference the data quickly and easily. If you don't have access to Swiss, you might want to look into that with your district. So these are just a few examples of graphs and data that you can pull up on Swiss, and I love looking at them this way, and the fact that you can break it down and really narrow in on when and why it's happening. So again, do we have a school-wide problem with behavior? We can look at the average referrals. That's it.